Okay, welcome everybody to our session this afternoon. It's called 7 Powerful Keys to Direct Suggestion Success. And I think you're going to like this. This is a seminar I love to do. I find it helps people a lot in their practices. So what happens in our world today, and it's kind of statistically what's done out there with direct suggestion, is people will go to a hypnotist and they'll, in quote, hypnotize them by using a fractional or a progressive relaxation type induction. And then because it's the privacy of their own office, they don't test them to see what level of hypnosis they're in. And then they'll say, okay, let's read them some hypnosis patter on smoking or whatever it might be. And then after that's over, they'll emerge them from hypnosis and send them home, usually or frequently with a support tape that you say, listen to this every day for 30 days and you'll be a non-smoker. Well, what's wrong with this picture? Number one, we have no way to knowing even if they were in hypnosis, they just may be relaxed. And if they were in hypnosis, no indication of trance level. Reading patter once gives the suggestions very, very lightly to an individual. And then asking a person to listen to a tape for 30 days basically tells that individual's subconscious mind that whatever you did in the office didn't work. Now you're going to have to go home and do it on your own. Now these type of sessions lead to the myriad of people out there who say, I tried hypnosis, but it did not work for me. And we all look bad. And there are millions of people out there that just don't believe in hypnosis because it didn't work for them. Well, let's talk about this. A good hypnosis session, a great hypnosis session, is made up of quite a few little bitty things done correctly that make the whole effective and works very well. Now, the first thing that we have to learn to do and understand, I don't know if they teach this. How many of you are NGH members? Okay. I don't know if they teach this or not up there, but in any event, what we have to watch out for is, and this is a killer, this brings on what I call shoot yourself in the foot hypnosis and makes your jobs inherently more difficult. One is our semantics. We have got to watch out that we are not using words that cause us problems, and I mean serious problems. And we all are if we're not trained differently. I did for many years until I understood what I was doing to myself. Now, there are words that have evolved into our profession we have got to get out of our profession because they're negative and they make our jobs terribly harder. The first word that we all need to get rid of is the word under. How many times have you said under? How many times have you heard the word under? Oprah loves under. Ooh, when you're under hypnosis. Now, under is a pejorative word. What does that mean? It means talking down to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind accepts it in a frightening way, like under your power or under the bed or something like that. Under is a subconscious frightening word. Why would we want to do that? Now, doesn't that sound... Think about it. I'm ready to put you under hypnosis. Don, does that sound good to you?
It really didn't bother me.
All right, we'll leave now. How many of you think it sounds like a negative kind of a word? Sure it does. And it really upsets the subconscious part of us, some more than others, obviously. But it does bother us. So we need to get rid of it. Because at best it's neutral, it's never positive, and at worst it's very debilitating. So, what do we use to get rid of it? It's so simple. How about when we go in hypnosis? So I'm ready to help you go into hypnosis. Doesn't that sound better than I'm ready to put you under hypnosis? Sure, just a little thing. So get rid of the word under. Now that's not easy to do. When I finally got it out of my professional vocabulary, it took quite a bit of work on my part to do it. I decided that every time I was going to listen, and every time I said the word under, I was going to slap myself. And when I wasn't going to slap myself gently. I wanted to slap myself so hard that it probably would bring on semi-consciousness. Well, I'm not kidding either. It sounds funny, but I'm a slow learner and I need, motivation. Well, my whole side of this face was so black and blue by the time I got that out of my vocabulary, and it's out. Now, whenever I hear the word under, I hear a professional, in quote, hypnotist say the word under, I'm going, oh my gosh, that's a terrible word. You're just hurting yourself. For you in the audience, this innocent-looking young lady said you want to walk up and slap them. Well, actually, you're not far off. That's probably, but it like shocks me when I hear it anymore. It's my God, how can they still be using these words? They're so debilitating. Another word that is debilitating, you can have the greatest session you ever had. I mean, everything was right. Your biorhythms were right on target. Your words flew out just like honey on a, I don't know, what do you put honey on? On a hot biscuit. Well, never mind. Everything is perfect in your session. And let's say it's a smoking session, and this guy or gal, when they leave your office, is going to be a non-smoker for the rest of their life. It's nailed, it's hammered, there's no question. So now the end of the session comes. And okay, you did great. Now in a moment I'm going to count to 3, and at the count of 3 you're going to wake up, and you're going to become fully alert. What's wrong with those words?
Never sleep. Tell them to wake up.
The client frequently will say, wake up? Oh man, I was supposed to have been asleep. I wasn't asleep. Because I heard everything and wasn't asleep, nothing worked. Now all your good work is instantly erased. They're not going to say it to you when they emerge. People are generally nice. They'll pay you, they'll go out in the car, they'll grab their pack of cigarettes, very disappointed, light one up, and they're off about their business again. So we need to eliminate wake up from our professional vocabulary. Doesn't do us any good. The worst it can be is neutral. I mean, the best it can be is neutral. The worst it can be is totally devastating to the work that you've done in that session.
And what do you say?
What to use instead? That's a very good question, Serge. Thank you very much. Right on the money he is. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3. At the count of 3, eyes open, fully alert, and notice how good you feel. Or you can use a Elman induction, emerging technique, which is simply, in a moment I'll have you open your eyes, and when you do, notice how good you feel. Open your eyes, how do you feel? I mean, anything. Or I'm going to lift your arm and drop it. When I do, eyes open, fully alert. Anything but wake up.
What about full waking consciousness? Is that?
It's marginal.
Yeah.
It still can be misunderstood.
But you say sleep.
Yeah, but I always preface that with, if I ever use the word sleep, I'm not talking a sleep of the natural sleep. I'm talking a quick, deep relaxation of the nervous system. Mm-hmm. Or as they say in France, la nervous system. I can speak that language.
Some accent.
What do you say at the count of 3 or at the count of something? You'll open your eyes and
Be fully alert.
What if I say at the count of 3, you'll open your eyes and do something? Fine, as long as what they do is okay. You don't want to say, you'll open your eyes and cluck like a chicken or something.
No. What I mean was, the point I was getting at, saying open your eyes, is that okay?
That's fine. Open your eyes and feel good. Open your eyes. Anything. Just avoid wake up. As long as you stay away from wake up, you're going to be in good shape. Now, there's another word that really doesn't mean anything, but it sounds good and we use it, and it's okay if you use it, as long as you really understand what it is, and that's the word deeper. It's okay to use deeper. I'm not telling you not to use it. I use it all the time. But what does it really mean? Nobody's really going deeper into something. If that was true, I'd rent myself an office up on the 100th floor of the Empire State Building and put a pulley system out with a recliner and lower them down. You're going deeper and deeper. No. People don't become deeper. What they do is they become more suggestible. Their suggestibility is being increased by what you're saying. But it's okay to use deeper. You don't want to go, and now as I count from 10 down to 1, you'll become more and more suggestible. Well, that'll scare them. So you don't want to do that. So just be aware of those words. Now, I talked about this before to Judy, and this is another killer type of thing. If at all possible, it is to your best interest to drop completely the words you will, you are, things on that order. As I count from 10 down to 1, you will go deeper. A lot of personalities are going to go, will not, can't make me.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. So, you might want to be more passive in that scenario. Count from 10 down to 1, just see if you can let yourself relax a little bit more. But watch out for you will.
Deeper. Yeah, deeper.
Now another one. What's wrong with this statement? I want you to now see yourself on a beautiful
tropical
beach.
See yourself. Only 17% of people are visual or can actually see. So imagine.
Well, all of you are correct. The big one here is number one.
I want you to.
I want.
I want is wrong. You should say, I want you to find yourself. Now, when I say I want you to see yourself, seeing requires a person makes a picture in their mind. That's what the word see means. That means the person has to be visual. And only roughly 20% of the people in the country are visual. So if you say to a non-visual person like moi, I want you to see yourself on a tropical beach, and I can't do it, again, I'm saying, well, I can't do it. This is not going to work for me. And from whatever happens from that point on, it doesn't apply to me because I can't do what you're telling me here. Well, a lot of people say, well, I love creative visualization. I just love it. Especially in Alabama, I just love creative visualization. Well, fine. You're going to have a 20% success rate then. If that's okay and you got a big enough practice that that's going to make you living, be my guest. And we won't even go into creative visualization and how inherently dangerous that is. Because I don't want to scare you. Geez, now I got to tell you because the camera's on. Creative visualization, unless you put certain safety factors around it, is very dangerous. And I tell this tale in class, what happened to me as a very young man. And I also have a videotape of a physician talking about how this happened to him. I remember one snowy winter day up in New Jersey when I was just a young guy, maybe 17 years old, and I'm hypnotizing this woman for whatever, weight loss or smoking or something. And there was a blizzard outside. The wind was blowing so hard, the snow was blowing horizontally. And there was a little crack. I couldn't close the window all the way, and it was like blowing in and hitting that thing that made heat, the heater. So I decided I'd give this lady a wonderful vacation. So as a deepening technique, I said, all right, now I want you to see yourself. She happened to be visual, but that was screwed up semantics anyway at that point. I said, I want you to see yourself on a beautiful Bahama beach. It's early in the morning. You're lying on your blanket. It's beautiful. It's warm. You can feel the soft tropical beach lightly playing in your hair. And as you lie there looking up into the beautiful deep tropical sky, you see little white puffy clouds slowly drifting by. Not bad, huh? My next line was going to be, as you see those little clouds slowly drifting by, imagine yourself drifting deeper and deeper. Relax. Never got that far. As soon as I said those little white cluffy? Well, they're kind of like puffy, only a little puffier than puffy. They're cluffy. Instantly, her whole body went stiff and rigid as a steel bar. The only two parts of her body touching the recliner were the back of her heels and the back of her head. Everything else was thunk, snapped out like that. The cords in her neck opened up, and she's going, "Ah!" Now, I'm a kid. I'm going, what the? Good grief. So I said, I have to do something. So I got very professional. I leaned over, I grabbed her by the shoulders, and I went, wake up, wake up, wake up! And she did. And for the first time in my life, somebody looked at me with absolute hate. And she said, you son of a mega rotten bragga pump. See, I have to G-rate this thing because of the taste, you know, if the camera wasn't on, I'd tell you what she really said. But then after she calmed down and she realized that I was just trying to do something nice, she told me the story about a year ago when her and her husband were on their honeymoon in the Bahamas. They had just finished making love on the beach, and he was down by the water, rolling around like the great white whale, and she's lying on the blanket. And anybody here from South Florida or any tropical environment? Well, you guys know, as I well know, Nassau, that in the tropics and in the subtropics, many times early morning thunderstorms develop out over the water. And they'll drift toward land, and once they get to land, they kind of dissipate and go away. But they're the morning flickers, we used to call them. And these things are spitting lightning, and lightning will go about 7 miles from a thunderstorm. Anyway, here is this guy, maybe he was grounded perfectly or whatever, but this lightning bolt comes down, hits him in the head. Now, I don't know anything about electricity or what happens, but I do know that something was set up where his head exploded. And can you in front of his wife, and she was watching it. Now, can you imagine the trauma, and for you NLP people, the anchoring that went on here with the beach? Do you think she ever wanted to be put on that Bahama beach again? And where did I put her? So I was playing God, wasn't I? And this has happened to quite a number of people. So if you're going to...
Flex his brains?
Huh? Yeah. Brains all over the place. So you may want to if you're going to use these type of techniques, visual techniques, you need to know two things. One, are they visual? And two, is it a safe technique to use for them? Now, if I would have known this, I would have said in the pre-talk, I would have said, you know, boy, my dad's taking me to the Bahamas next week. I'm looking forward to laying on the beach. Do you like the beach? I would have backed my hand. And at that point, she would have let me know real quick what she felt about that beach. And I wouldn't have done that, you see.
What about instead of specifying, saying that they would find themselves in a tranquil setting of their own?
Yes, I mean, you can certainly do this. You can go to your own favorite place, your own relaxation place, but most people don't. Most people have a pattern, they have a deepening technique, and they're reading it to them, and boom. And they can get in this trouble. So these are just little things that you need to watch out for. And especially telling people you will and what you will do and what you won't do is going to really anger some people. They don't, then be careful with that. These are things we need to clean up our semantics with. All right, now let's show you how we do a session. I have it all outlined here for you. I'm leery to give it to you ahead of time now. You know why I'm leery? You'll read it and you'll get ahead of what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to give it to you.
Okay.
Till later.
Okay.
Till Bob reminds you.
And you people at home, put it away until we're done here.
They might not pay attention to you.
They might not. Well, they're like my wife. She don't pay attention to me either. Anyway, here we go. Let's take a smoking session. Somebody comes in to you to stop smoking. Now, they will watch, no they won't. I will do a pre-talk with them on smoking because I want to find out a couple of things that are very important. See, a normal pre-talk for other problems they come in for, I can do on videotape, and it's all done, it's canned, and it sounds great. But a smoking one I like to do myself because I want to cover some bases and I want to look in their eyes when I'm doing it for a lot of reasons. Now, number one is I want to find out why they want to stop smoking. because it's been my experience. Now, other of you guys may be very successful in what you're doing, so I can only relate my experiences for what they're worth. It's been my experience that if they don't want to stop smoking for the right reason, it doesn't work. Listen, I'm not going to mamby-pamby around. I'll just say, you know, I come a cropper if I take people like that. Now, the right reason to stop smoking is?
They want to.
Everything but cigarette.
They want to stop smoking everything but cigarettes? Or they want to stop smoking cigarettes and smoke everything else?
They want to hide a problem with cigarettes.
They want to cover up their inner problems with cigarettes.
Professional problem, they smoke.
All right. But,
Wife problem, cigarettes.
okay. So why do they want to stop smoking, not why they are smoking?
Because the wife is gay.
I mean, you get wife problems in France?
Yes.
I'm shocked. I've always heard French women are just so romantic and fall into your arms and swoon. That's not true?
No.
Southern girls.
You've ruined my whole illusion here. Well, anybody else want to take a crack at it? Why do people want to stop? What's the reason that people should have? Not you, you watch the tape. That's
No, I haven't seen the tape. Fear of death.
Fear.
fear of death. So that's a motivation to stop smoking. Fear of death. Who else? Well, who else?
Yeah.
For
I
social
think
reasons.
that I want to.
Let me rephrase the question. Yeah, why are people, what is the one reason that will work, one mental attitude that people need to have in order to be successful in a stop smoking?
They don't hate
Really,
it.
really,
They hate, yeah, that they are addicts.
Hate the cigarettes.
Say that again into the mic.
They hate that they have that addiction.
Say it again.
They hate it.
More conviction.
They hate that they have that.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That's totally incorrect, but I like their energy. Okay. Let me walk you through this. It'll make it easy. A lot of people say I want to stop smoking because peer pressure. I'm burning my furniture. I'm burning my clothes. My doctor tells me to stop. My husband tells me to stop. My mother-in-law tells me to stop. It's socially unacceptable. People look at me as if I'm dog dirt or something like that. And these are maybe all good supportive reasons, or I'm afraid I'm going to die. If that was enough motivation, you certainly would have quit. But they're all not the correct motivations. The correct motivation is very simple, is very easy, and either they have it or they don't. And in my office, what I used to have is a wicker basket, like a trash basket, and it was full of old, used cigarette packs, half empty, kind of crushed. That when people, the subliminal suggestion was when people got up from their hypnosis session, they'd throw their cigarettes into that bucket. Well, that was true, but when I first started out and heard about this idea, I didn't have any, so I just went out and bought cigarettes and crushed them and threw them in there for the subliminal suggestion. Anyway, what I would do is I'd lean over and I'd take a cigarette, maybe a little bit bent for effect. Is that okay, Don?
That's fine.
All right. I'm afraid to ask Don questions. Now, I tell the person to hold it. Hold that cigarette, Don. Got it? Now, I want you to hold it up in front of you. Now, if you can look at that cigarette and honestly say to yourself, I don't like you and I don't want you in my life anymore. Can you do that? Honestly, you can lie to me, you can lie to you, you can lie to your mother-in-law, but you can't lie to yourself. Now, if they say, that's absolutely true, I don't like you and I don't want you in my life anymore, that's the correct reason. Anything other than that, I'm kicking them out. And then if they say, yes, that's true, then I'll say you can also add, I don't like the control that you've had over me all these many years. Now, if they can honestly say that to themselves, I know that we got a victory on our hands. I absolutely know it. If they're honest. I don't like you, I don't want you in my life anymore, period. Now, once we've established that, I'll say to them, do you have any concerns or fears about stopping smoking? And what is the fear that almost everybody has? Putting weight on. Big labans in the belly here. Voulez labans. Now, and if they don't ask that question, I'm going to say, you know, that's interesting that you don't have any fear because a lot of people are frightened of gaining weight. Then they'll say, well, yeah, I'm a little concerned about that. Then you put on your most stoic, sad, yet concerned, loving face. And you say to them, it's true. What can I say? Most people will gain between 8 and 17 pounds when they quit smoking. Now you see the shoulders slump. You'll see them eye the door, trying to figure how they can get out of here at a frightening rate of speed. But then I look them square in the eye and I say, but that's not going to happen to you. It's not going to happen to you. You see, now you've made this statement, and you can't walk away from it. You have to explain to them why it's not going to happen to them. Right? Help me here, right? Right. All right. Tough crowd. So, I'll say, let me ask you some questions. I'll say, do you know how cigarettes are made? And they'll say, well, no, not really. I'll say, well, let me explain to you so you understand what's going on. Back in the old days, when we were first growing tobacco, we had something called a tobacco weevil, which ate the tobacco leaves. And this is all historically true. And so, through necessity, we had to start developing insecticides to control this tobacco weevil. And as time went by, the weevils, insects adapt to insecticides. So you always have to change or make them stronger and stronger, so that today we use such a powerful insecticide that if all we did was take it off the plant, dry it, and make it into tobacco products, cigarettes, etc., what would happen as soon as you inhaled a cigarette? What didn't they take off the leaf? The poison. And so you would be inhaling this insecticide poison and roll over like a dead roach with your feet up in the air. So they had to take the poison off. Now, back in the early days, how they did it is they dug this trench in the ground. It was probably about 8 feet wide, and it went down like this and up like this, and it had like grandma's pulley system on that, you know. And they used to have the tobacco leaves would be clamped on. They had holes in the middle of the cable where they stuck poles through. And black slaves would stand on each side of this thing and push it down into the water, and then they'd shake it, and on the way up. But, you know, it was a great idea, but it didn't work. They discovered through just however they discover things in this world, that if they added a crude molasses to this mix, that the insecticide would stick to the molasses, and then they could shake all the poison off and it came out the other side, and then they put it in the drying sheds, which I always thought was bad construction, as I rode up the old Route 301 in the Carolinas and saw all these big tall buildings with like the boards didn't fit together. But that was the drying shed, so the air could get in for the hanging tobacco. And the same thing is true today, except today it's all electric. You know, the motors bring the tobacco leaves into the bath, and it's vibrated with ultrasound, and then it comes out and it's hung up in drying sheds that have solid walls and infrared lamps beating down on them, so we're modernized, but the technique is still the same. Now what's the one thing they didn't take off the tobacco leaf? You have this industrial molasses. And every time a smoker inhales a cigarette, not consciously, subconsciously, they get an injection of a sweet flavor. So, think about this. How many drags does the average smoker get on a cigarette? I don't know. Why don't we take a guess and say
10.
10. All right, let's use round numbers, 10. And how many cigarettes are in a pack? 20. So that's 200, am I right? 200 drags to a pack. So if you're 1 pack a day, you're getting that regular injection of sweetness 200 times a day. If you're a 2 pack a dayer, it's 400 times a day. That's a lot of injection of sweetness, and your subconscious likes that. So if all you do is remove the need for nicotine, which I have never found to be a significant addiction whatsoever, I don't even address it because it's a nothing problem. If you remove, you know what I'll say, and then I'll say, so from that point on, and they'll say, well, I don't eat sweets. I said, well, you won't eat sweets because or you may not, because there's natural sugars in so many of our foods that you just may eat these other foods that are high in carbohydrates, for example, which is another word for sugar, and that will just pile the weight on you, and you're going to get heavier and heavier and heavier. Then I'll look over with the person with a very caring look. Joe, I know you're not here for this, but would you mind? I mean, if you don't, it's okay. But during this session, while we're helping you get off the cigarettes, would it be okay if at the same time we removed your need to smoke cigarettes, that we also removed your need for that regular injection of a sweet flavor, so that if you're a little overweight, maybe you'll just find that the weight comes off automatically and you'll go down to the weight that's perfect for you. Would it be okay if we did that?
Absolutely.
I've never heard anybody say anything other than that, or yes. I mean, we've solved their problem now, haven't we? And we've taken their fear away. Now, I'll be honest with you, and candid with you as I always will be. Sometimes I get paid a penalty for that. But that story is all made up by me. It's evolved over the years. Sounds good though, doesn't it? And when I told this story in class one day, a lady got very upset, left in a huff, come back the next day. And she said, I left yesterday, I was very angry with you that you would lie to your clients. And I sat home and I was steaming. I was going to tell you off today. She says, but you're right. That's exactly what happens. Now I'm confused. She says, look at this. And I should have brought it with me. It's an full-page advertisement for Winston cigarettes. It says what all other brands of cigarettes have in their cigarettes. Well, they do too. It's just, and it said propylene and all this weird stuff. And then it said sugar, and sucrose and high fructose sucrose and all this other stuff. It's loaded with sugar these people put in there. So I said, this is great. I took the ad and I used it as part of my training. Then I had some people from Australia in the class. So about a month later, I get a fax from Australia. Note, Jerry, g'day. Thought you might like this. Now here's a whole article in the major newspaper in Australia saying tobacco companies admit putting sugar in their products. And then it went on to talk about Philip Morris or whatever one it was, and how they put tobacco in, and they deny that it was to addict young children into sweetness. It was just to enhance the flavor. Yeah, right. So everybody is becoming a sugar addict. Now a new law was passed that within the near future, each carton of cigarettes is going to have to list the real ingredients. Well, Shirley was out buying cigarettes for her mother the other month. And she says, you are not going to believe this. So she comes walking in with this carton of Lark?
I don't know.
Some weird carton of cigarettes. And listed on the side of this thing are the ingredients in the cigarettes. They had 7 different sugars in it. Sugar, which is kind of boring, and then the fructose and the high fructose, and then 4 or 5 other ones that end in ose. If it ends in ose, it's a sugar. And I was blown away, and we hand that out in our class as handouts now just to show people. So the reality of it is, kids, cigarette smokers are addicted to sugar. They're not addicted to tobacco. And our whole population is becoming addicted to sugar in one way or another. And processed sugar is the dooming of our society. It's got so many things bad for us, it's unbelievable. So there's your addiction. And when I explain that to the people, they understand. And they said they know it's going to be easy because they were worried about being a nicotine addict. And they're not.
As you were talking, that just made me think. So an individual that really has always said, I don't want to stop smoking. I'm not talking about a client. I'm talking about maybe a husband. Maybe all you have is because they're, and I have a supposition that they're worried about their weight. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but anyway. So, if I just show them, maybe, are you aware that the cigarettes have this sugar, and just say, here.
That's right.
And don't say anything else. Just let them figure it out for themselves.
If he's smart enough to figure it out for himself, that he's a sugar addict, then that would be a good thing.
That's what's putting the weight
Yeah.
on is the cigarettes.
Look, if you look at the how people help people stop smoking through the Cancer Society and the Heart Association, they have about a 1 to 3% success rate after a year's follow-up. They're not helping anybody. If you look at the hypnotic follow-ups, as we did and quite a few people that I'm aware of did, we will have a success rate, if the session is done correctly, you're going to be up in the 70 to 80% success rate. Don't believe these people who are saying 100%. Forget that. Anybody who preaches 100% of anything success rate, run from. But we're up there way above anybody else.
I have to tell you a cute story about that. About 10 years ago, or a little bit longer, I took my husband to a hypnotherapist, one of those hypnotherapists that come to town and everything. We both smoked, but he had a much worse problem than I did, and he needed fixing, So that was my whole concept, was that we were going to go so that he could be fixed, and never even thought that about myself. Well, we went, and for about 10 days, he stayed stopped. And until this day, I have not smoked maybe a whole cigarette, and it's been over 10 years.
And he went back to smoking.
He went back to smoking.
And you know why? You told me why.
Why? Because
Because you told me it was your concept.
exactly.
It wasn't his.
That's why I took you
Sure.
to get your fixed. But I never thought that I didn't go without you. I took a stop.
Well, you did. That's great. All right, let's get this. Yeah, go ahead.
One of the hypnotherapists that I've worked with said that there's so much sugar in cigarettes that she actually has her clients, if they're diabetic, keep their sugar monitored, and they've actually had to adjust insulin levels.
Yeah, and for those of you who can't hear that or on the mic, she said her hypnotist told her there was so much sugar in cigarettes that it affected her diabetic medicine had to be increased or modified or adjusted quite frequently. And yeah, absolutely. Sugar is sugar is sugar. Whether it's in cigarettes or in the sugar bowl, it's sugar. And it's our biggest problem we have in our country at this time for our health, is the sugar intake. Okay, so now when I get done with this pre-talk, and now they understand this, no, they're not going to gain weight, they're ready to go. Now we start with the actually we've been doing hypnosis up to this point. When they first came in, that's when I hypnotized them. Now you should learn how to do this too, and here is your homework. What you need to learn how to do is you go home tonight, you sit in front of a mirror, or not, and you practice not blinking for at least 60 seconds. Now, as you do this, your eyes are going to get dry, they're going to itch, they're going to burn, you're going to be very uncomfortable. But trust me, if you hang in, eventually that goes away and you're just going to go, oh, what the hell, I'll just let them do it. Now, if you do that, now you hypnotize the person very easily during your pre-talk. You sit down next to them. And as you're talking to them the whole time, you're staring into their eyes. See, in our society, that's a very uncomfortable thing. When we're talking to people, we take a quick look and then we look away. We don't sit there and stare at them. And as you're staring at them, your eyes are going to itch and they're getting more and more uncomfortable until finally they can't take it anymore. And they turn their head. Well, they turn their head, you quick. Water your eyes, clean them out. And when they come back, you're right on them again. They go, oh, damn, he hasn't left. Now, if you do this, what will happen is eventually, and it won't take long, they'll be turning away uncomfortable. You'll be watering your eyes and back at them. Eventually, they'll go, you'll see it happen. What I call it is the hypnotic surrender. All of a sudden, they go, and they're just with you. And now you got them into hypnosis. Now the more you look at them, now you can blink if you want to, it's okay. But the more you talk to them, but continue looking in their eyes, keep that connection. They're just going to go bump, 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 deeper and deeper into trance as you're going through this. And so It's a great way to hypnotize people anytime, any place, when you're buying your car, doing it to the car salesman. I do it to my wife, but she says, stop that stuff real fast. And it works wonderful. I mean, you could do a whole session just by doing that DRT eye lock hypnosis technique without any problem whatsoever. So you learn how to do that. So now you've done it. You already got them into trance. Now you're going to do the hypnosis session. You hypnotize the person through your fancy, skilled hypnosis techniques that you love so well. You get them into a nice state of somnambulism. Don't settle for anything less because you don't have to. And if you can, use a shorter induction. Gives you more time to have fun in these direct suggestion techniques, you see. Now they're in hypnosis. Now, it doesn't matter what they're in for, as far as I'm concerned, if it's a direct suggestion technique. Now, let's really quickly review for just a few moments the law of compounding, because that's going to become very powerful at this point. Compounding suggestion is the direct suggestion hypnotist's most important tool. They have all these fine point things here. Okay, well that is supposed to be a straight line over on that side, but I was bumping into this chair, and it made it more difficult. After a person is in hypnosis, now we're going into the direct suggestion format. Now the first suggestion I give a person is always the same when it comes to beginning the actual therapeutic intervention. Anybody got a clue what I do here?
Very easy. Breath, you exhale, guides you deep.
Bada bing. Absolutely. The one thing I want them to do throughout the rest of the session, I'll just say, okay, now we're going to begin to help you become a non-smoker. So from this moment on, every breath you exhale, allow it to help you to become more and more relaxed. In other words, a deepening suggestion, your favorite deepening suggestion. That's all. That's number one. But it's very, very weak. Almost to the point of being totally ineffective. But that's okay. The second suggestion I give them is always a suggestion that tells them they've already accomplished what they're in for. I'll say, you are now a non-smoker and you're going to remain a non-smoker for the rest of your life. You're now a non-smoker and you'll remain a non-smoker for the rest of their life. Now that's weak. But what it does is it makes the number one suggestion stronger. The third suggestion, whatever it may be, first goes and makes the number one suggestion stronger, then it will make the number two suggestion stronger, and the third one is weak. You getting the idea? So if that's the case, the 516th suggestion, where is it going to go? It's going to go all the way back and make this stronger, this stronger, this stronger, all the way up to 516. That's how the law of compounding works. Now, this was a discovery by a doctor. Bernheim discovered the law of compounding back in the 1800s. And because of that, he ended up giving Ellman the information he needed to make the now legendary Ellman induction. Dr. Bernheim simply wrote so honestly in his book, Suggestive Therapeutics. If you can get a copy of it, spend anything you have to get a copy of it. It's out of print, but you can find it in used bookstores, or maybe somebody will be selling one up on eBay. Suggestive Therapeutics by Dr. Hippolyte Bernheim. I love that first name, Hippolyte. I'm thinking of changing my name to it.
It'd be good.
Hippolyte Kein.
I like it.
Make a note, Cheryl. We're changing my name.
Hippolyte Kein, that's
Bern-
the name.
That's my Bernheim.
His last name.
Bernheim. Bernheim. Bernheim.
From session to session or inside the same session?
Same session.
Same session.
Same session.
And also from session, from session to session.
No, just this one session. We're going to only do one session. Now,
The name of the book again.
Suggestive Therapeutics by Dr. Hippolyte Bernheim, MD. We used to call him hippie in the old days, but that's besides the point. Now, but Dr. Bernheim wrote in his book, the first time somebody came in and I saw them, they went in a light state of hypnosis. A week later, I saw them and they went into a light state of hypnosis. The third week, they went in a light state of hypnosis, but the fourth week, they went into a deeper state, and the fifth week, they went into a deep state that Dr. Bernheim called somnambulism. See, he developed the name somnambulism. And Ellman, as a little boy, in a store in his hometown in Fargo, North Dakota, as a little head, Dad was a stage hypnotist, got this big old book, and he was reading this thing, and he goes, "Oh, Dr. Bernheim." See, when you have a childlike mind, anything is possible. So when we get older, we get all tight. And he said, "Dr. Bernheim," he goes, "well, why did you bring him back once a week? Why didn't you bring him back every day? And then instead of 5 weeks, you would have got somnambulism in 5 hours." And then he thought a little more, and he says, "Well, wait a minute. Why even that? Why didn't you just hypnotize them and emerge them and then send them out of the office and wait an hour and then bring them back and do it again? And if what you're saying is true, you should be able to get somnambulism in 5 hours." And the child's mind raced on, and he says, "Well, why even send them out? Why don't you just hypnotize them, emerge them, not emerge them, hypnotize them and then have them open his eyes." They think they're emerged, but they're not, as we know. And then tell them that each time they do that, you'll go deeper and deeper. Now, if that's true, instead of 5 hours, you should be able to do this in 3 minutes or less. As a young man, Bernheim came up with this concept of achieving somnambulism by repeated, and you're able to repeat it just down the line of people. Now, others got somnambulism, but they didn't know what they had, and they didn't know how they got it. Some people just, as we all know, spontaneously will drop into somnambulism or spontaneously drop into the coma. It's not through a ritual. So here was Ellman. The first time he tried this as a little kid, he put the person into somnambulism. And he was the first man to do it by design and make it repeatable, because it was all involving the law of compounding of suggestions, in and out, in and out. And the other story he loves to tell, or not anymore because he's gone, but he used to love to tell, was when he was a stage operator. And as a stage operator, one time he had a group of 15 subjects behind him, all in deep hypnosis with their eyes open. And he said to this one woman, there was a record player in the back room, in the back of the room, "The oddest thing's going to happen. Whenever you see me pull my tie, you're going to have a desire to go back and turn the record player on." Then he turned to Donald and he said, "Donald, anytime you see her turn the record player on, you're going to have a tremendous desire to go turn it off." And then he looked at the woman and went, "Dunk." And all she did was turn and slowly look at the record player. And all the man did, Donald did, was turn and look at her. That was it. Ellman said to the woman, "Look at me." Dunk. And more quickly she turned and looked at the record player, and more quickly Don turned and looked at her. "You're a goggler." Now Ellman pulled his tie again, and now the suggestion was becoming so strong that she slowly, with a quizzical look on her face, dunk, 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 walked back and turned the record player on. And just as slowly, Don walked back and turned it off. And now as they're walking up the island, Ellman looks at him and goes, "Yeah." And by this time, the suggestion is made so strong, the woman whips around and runs back and turns on the record player, and Don runs back and turns it off. That's the law of compounding, and it's a discovery by a doctor. So, when we apply it to a direct suggestion, we can see how strong this is going to make it. But let's make it so strong, so powerful, that this is going to have immediate success. How can we do that? Oh my, how can we do that? I've got a great idea. I'd start here and I'd say, okay, my first suggestion, you are now a non-smoker, you're going to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life, and now we're going to work with your conscious and subconscious to make that your absolute reality. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to use a direct drive technique to saturate every part of your mind, body, and spirit with the absolute knowledge that you're a non-smoker and nothing can ever change that. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say a suggestion. I want you to shout that suggestion along with me. No, wait, that's not true. I want you to scream it out. I want you to shout it out loud as you possibly can. Silently in your mind. Let's begin. Now, a good session is a bunch of peaks and valleys of emotion. You keep them dancing. You keep them zigging and zagging so they don't know what you're going to do next. So the next thing you say is, okay, you ready? Here we go. Now you change the tense. Here I said, you are now a non-smoker. I'm going to say, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker the rest of the life. Shout it out silently with me. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker the rest of my life. Again. I'm now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker the rest of my life. Again, 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 again. Again. You staying with me here, Don? You look a little sleepy. Everything all right? 15 times. Now, anybody here good at math and knows these things like to the power of stuff? Well, here you're compounding the same thing. You're compounding it over and over and over and over again. And after 15 times, that compound is extremely strong. And it's a great technique, but it only has one minor problem. One problem. You know what it is?
You're going to tell me.
You
What?
told 1 minute shouting and 1 minute slowly?
I didn't say 1 minute.
I didn't understand.
Oh. I said they're going to repeat it
How many times?
15 times.
Okay.
15 times. Now, the only problem with that I was going to bring up, and it's a small problem, but it's significant, and that is you won't do it. You won't do it. You will because you're weird, but most people won't. And you know why most people don't? I got Don here and now her. I'm having a terrible time.
I took your class, so I do it every time.
You better or we'll get you. Now, the reason you won't in all reality is because after 4 or 5 times you start to sound stupid to yourself. You really, really do. You're going, oh my God, they're laughing at me. This is ridiculous. The exact opposite is what's happening. The client is becoming more and more involved and excited about it. But you're not reading it that way. You're going, oh, this is so stupid. You are now a non-smoker. You'll be a non-smoker the rest of your life. You are now a non-smoker. You'll be a non-smoker the rest of your life. You are now a non-smoker. And you start to sound so weird that you start cutting it shorter and shorter and shorter. So instead of 15, you're doing a 10, 9, 8, and all of a sudden your outcome is not what it should be. It's what we say in German is gestunken. Is that how they say it in German? Gestunken, it stinks? Yeah, something like that. So the question is how can you say this 15 or more times without you sounding like an idiot to yourself? Well, I'm glad you asked that, sir. You're just full of these good questions this afternoon. I appreciate it. Here's what you do. You go out to your ye old electronics store that sells audio tapes and you buy yourself an endless loop tape. Now that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a piece of tape in a circle. There's never an ending to it. And you can buy it at Radio Shack or any of these audio stores. And they come in different lengths, like 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds. And I think I bought one that was about 30 seconds long, and I counted how many times I could put this suggestion, and I recorded it on that. So now I say to the individual, now we're going to use a direct drive technique to saturate every part of your mind, body, and spirit with the absolute knowledge that you're a non-smoker and you're going to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. I'm going to say a sentence. I want you to shout it out with me. I want you to scream it out with me, powerfully, but silently in your mind. Now this works much better if I leave the room for a few moments. So I'll begin it. Then I'm going to hit the tape recorder and you'll hear me, and you get more and more involved. You feel it consuming every part of the fiber in your body. Here we go. Now I start. I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker the rest of my life. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker the rest of my life. Again, I am now a non-smoker. I'll be a non-smoker for the rest of my life. Play button. Out of there. And now he's hearing the same thing in his office. Now don't go far. Trust me. Now you're out of there. Hang around the hallway outside or the office outside or the waiting room, whatever it is. And you don't want to be out there for more than 2 or 3 minutes, tops. Now 2 or 3 minutes of this is a heck of a lot more than 15 times, I'm going to tell you right now. But the problem is they get so involved and so excited about this that frequently they forget one word, and that word is silently. And all of a sudden they will break through that suggestion and you will hear, I am now a non-smoker and I'll be a non-smoker the rest of my life. Now, if you're outside the door, you should always do this when that happens. Yeah, because you know they're getting so wound up, and let them scream it 4 or 5 more times. Then you walk in silently, close the door, and click, turn the tape recorder off. And they're there, and they're so wrapped in this. And then you whisper to them. And it's true. You are now a non-smoker, and you're going to remain a non-smoker for the rest of your long, healthy, prosperous life. Now rest and go deeper. And you give them a little rest. You see how powerful that is up to this point? And we're only halfway through the session. We got more and more to do. You like that? Wait till you see what happens next. What you're going to see that happens next is beyond your comprehension, except prior to that, I've got a signal that now you can have your break. Great, welcome back from your break. And we ended on kind of an exciting note there with the direct drive technique. And that is a fabulous technique for really making the suggestion strong, the primary suggestion. Now, after you do that, what you'll do then is get your favorite hypnosis patter out, your script, and you will deliver it unto your client. Now, there are God knows how many stop smoking scripts out there. I suspect some of them are excellent, and like everything else, some of them are dogs. So find a good one. You know, it's important you get a good smoking script, because that's what will make the transformation. Of course, some of them are so bad they'll say like cigarettes taste like dog poop or something like that, this aversion therapy, and that doesn't work. You know, and if a hypnotist writes that, I want to know how he knows what that tastes like. Anyway, that's his personal life. Anyway, you're going to read the patter to him, or spit it out if you know it by heart. Now that brings up the next problem. A lot of hypnotists don't know how to deliver patter to somebody in a way that's powerful and effective. Now, I inadvertently, by accident, brought a weight loss patter. It happens to be a great weight loss patter, but it doesn't go along with the smoking program, but that's okay. We're talking about reading patter. And this is a patter written by an early instructor of mine by the name of Vic Carnella, so many years ago that I think Moses was still walking the earth, but it still works beautifully, you see. And I get a lot of people sending me their self-hypnosis tape all over the country asking me to critique it for them. And I don't mind doing that, just don't ask me to do it the next day. You know, I'll get to it relatively soon. Anyway, I get this weight loss patter in from this fella up in North Carolina. Where's our North Carolina folks? There you are. Anyway, he says, would I critique this? And I said, well, yeah, I'll be happy to. He sent it down. It happened to be this patter because it's the one in our patter book, and he had bought that for weight loss. And just imagine yourself as the client now. And you're laying back and you got your eyes closed and you're feeling pretty snuggly and warm all under, and now you hear something like this. As you know, the reason you are here is because you would like to lose a few pounds. Here is how you will do it. Starting tomorrow morning, you will have 3 meals per day. You will have breakfast, you will have lunch, and you will have dinner. You like that? Not good, is it?
No.
Bad, isn't it? Sounds like you're reading. And if a client thinks that you're reading, he's going to be very unhappy. He's paying you the big bucks for your deep wisdom and knowledge, not reading him something. So, what are you going to do? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's a couple of little things that make your session better. Now, if you haven't internalized your smoking or weight loss pattern, you're going to have to read it. But there are ways to read any pattern where your client will never know that you're reading it. It comes in 2 phases. One is you never want them to hear something like this. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. So, reading to me, I can hear him flipping the paper. No. So you never want to let him hear you turn paper. So you have to learn how to handle your paper. Most people will have a little table, a lot of times with a shelf underneath it. And when you're brand new, you got your induction, you got your deepening technique, you got your pattern, you got your emerging technique, all hanging over there, you see. Come in, close your eyes, and then you rang a bell, didn't it, Claudia? Yeah, I got you on that one. And that's fine until you get internalized. But you don't want to hear this either. All right, let's begin. Take a long, deep breath, exhale, and close your eyes. Okay. And off you go, you see. Now, handling paper, that's something you need to practice. If you're dealing with a shelf and you're letting it hang over the lip a little bit, you want to always moist fingers work. Come up to your paper, put a nice bend in it there, and lift it up. Now, you got it. Now you can read them your pattern. And so you start, and it might sound something like this. Blah, 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 blah. Now you're getting down to the end. Blah, 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 blah. You slide this one out, put a bend in it. See? Blah, 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 blah. Now you don't lift this one, you drop the stack. Blah, 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 blah. Now you got to get rid of this one. So as you're reading blah, 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 remember, the only tool we have is our voice. Michelangelo had a paintbrush. We use our voice. Blah, 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 blah. Blah. Blah, 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 slide, drop, blah, 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 and you get rid of your paper. So now they don't hear the paper. But of course, you also have to say something other than blah, blah, blah. It might be in your best interest to deal with something that has to do with the problem that they come in for. Well, again, you don't want to read it like I said before. As you know, the reason you are here is because you would like to lose a few pounds. Also, the old-time monotone talking is out. Model T stuff. As they says, as my buddy Dominic says, forget about it. As you know, the reason you are here is because you would like to lose a few pounds. Oh God. Here's how you will do it. Oh help. No. The way you read pattern, we are dealing with, yes, the subconscious mind, but what is the subconscious mind? It is the emotional, feeling level mind. That means it responds to emotions and feelings. Is that rocket science? No. I mean, this is pretty simple stuff. So what I like to tell my students is you want to read them the pattern or deliver unto them the pattern in a way that you would, remember that time of your life, what was it called? Oh yeah, I remember. Puberty. Remember puberty? Everything was a, does she like me? I don't know. Would you ask her? And then maybe your girlfriend or your buddy got dumped and they threatened to use poison and they brought in some cough syrup. You never went through this? It was a New Jersey thing. Anyway, I really wasn't going to drink it. That's besides the point. Anyway, you brought your best friend up to your bedroom and you talked to them in this way because you loved them so much and you cared about them. You know, you're going to be fine, honey, don't worry about it, you know, this and that and the other thing. You got into their soul, and that's the way you want to read your patter also, or as close to that as you can. So let me interject this at this moment. Everybody should take a good hypnosis course, one you really feel comfortable in and one that gives you the skills you feel good about. But after that, you should take another course. And what should it be?
Acting.
An acting class. That's absolutely correct. The next class that will do you more good than anything else I can imagine is an acting class. To use your voice in all the many ways that an actor is skilled to use is unbelievable exciting in your hypnosis office. Even if you learn nothing more than the power of the pregnant pause. That pause for effect, where you pause and the person knows that something so dynamic is going to happen. And so the more you become an actor or an actress in your class, the better you're going to deliver patter, the more excited they're going to get at the subconscious level, and the more power your suggestions are going to have going into their minds. So think about it. That's all I'm asking you to do. So let's read patter. And this is one I never memorized, been around for years, but I never memorized it. And see, most people don't know that you can also ad-lib your patter, especially if you get lost. Which if you're reading it with emotion, you get lost frequently, you see. So I might say to the person something like this. Okay, Phil, now you know the reason you're here is because you want to lose a few pounds. That's great. Now here's how you're going to do it. Starting tomorrow morning, forget about today, pig out today. That's an ad-lib.
That was an
You're going to have 3 meals every day. You're going to have your breakfast. That's real important. You're going to have your lunch. And, of course, you're going to have a wonderful dinner. And you're going to find that after eating a regular meal, your stomach will feel so full, so satisfied. You couldn't add anything more to that beautiful, full, and satisfied feeling. And you know it's going to last right up to your next regular meal? It's going to last right up to your next regular meal. See, that's because I was lost, so I repeated that twice. But if for any reason you ever feel the desire to eat between your regular meals, all you have to do is stop. In the name of love. See, they don't know you're doing it. They got their eyes closed. I do this all the time. Stop. It's great. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. And as you slowly exhale this deep breath, that feeling, that desire will dissolve and disappear, and your stomach once again will feel so full and satisfied you couldn't add to that beautiful feeling. Now this is ad lib. You know, you think you came here to stop losing weight. That's not why you came here. That's why your conscious mind thinks you came here. But that's not why you came here. Let me tell you the real reason why you came here. The real reason you came here today, and now I pick up the patter again, is because you finally decided to take back control of a part of your life that's been out of control. No one, nothing has the right to control you. Not your mother, your father, your wife, your husband, your kids, your boss, or certainly not food. Only you have the right to control you, and you're taking back that control, and you're taking it back now. So, when you sit down to one of those 3 regular meals, when the food's right in front of you and there's nothing else for you to do but begin eating, you'll briefly close your eyes and say silently but forcefully to yourself the words, 1/2. 1/2, baby. You see, I mean, you can have fun with this stuff. This isn't meant to be a mundane, and now bada bing, bada boom, you say. Then, every hypnosis office should have a few hypno toys around just to break up the monotony of doing direct suggestion. So let me move forward in this a tad. And we blah, blah, blah for a few more pages. And then we get to this point. And if the person has been hypnotized before, what do you think they're going to think when they hear this? Now, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 up to 3. What do you think they're thinking is going to happen?
Coming out.
Yeah, they're bringing them out of trance, right? At the count, by the time I reach the count of 3, you will notice that a dry feeling has begun to form around your mouth and around your lips. Then you count like this. I love this. 1, 2, 3. And they're going. Then what you do is you reach under your chair and you whip out your hypno toys. A little large, but we can get the smaller ones. Then you say to them, I'll read it. That dryness you're beginning to feel in your mouth and around your lips is your body's natural thirst for the taste of plain, clear, uncolored water. Why you make them pee first, boys and girls? From this moment forward, every time you experience that dryness or discomfort or that feeling of needing something in your mouth, you'll recognize it and immediately, without hesitation, as your body's natural thirst for plain, clear, uncolored water. On occasionally, I've been known at this point to go, all day I face the barren waste without a taste of water, cool, clear water. And they're cracking up at the suggestions are going in. As you continue day by day to give your body the plain, clear, uncolored water it loves, for proper function, you free yourself from any need to store fat, and the water tastes so good and it becomes your most favorite drink, and you love the water. It's just so good, so refreshing, so healing, so thinning, and boy, if they didn't pee before, do they gotta go now. And they'll be laying there. Oh, and they loved it. They absolutely loved this. If you miss this in a weight loss session, you're being a bad boy or girl. That's just too good not to do. And then when you emerge them from that, well, we'll talk about emerging in a minute. Now you've done your pattern. Of course, I'll move forward to emerging, but we're coming back. When they open their eyes, the first thing they say is, "Can I have a drink of water?" No. Yes, you can, of course. And that's why you always have a pitcher of water in your office. But you ought to have your play water, too. And those little hospital pitchers are really neat size for that. You know, they're perfect for that. So there you have read them.
Did you just notice now?
Did I wet my pants?
A really long time ago.
Well, it just felt a little cool now. The nerves don't fire off as quickly as they used to. Well, sometimes you get so excited with this, you actually, in the office, you go, oh my God, you know, I'm in deep yogurt here. But it's okay. It's only water. So now you've read and compounded the patter. Oh no, we haven't compounded the patter. Now you read the patter, but it's weak. You haven't compounded it. So what you need to do is compound patter to make it very powerful. And the way you do that, as you will notice, any patter you have has one unique characteristic. It has paragraphs. Do they have paragraphs in French? Yes. Okay. Or they'll have French paragraphs. Now there's a unique thing about a paragraph. When you strip away everything, there's generally one sentence in the paragraph that means everything else that's in the paragraph. So as you read this, your patter ahead of time, you pull the one sentence out of it, and you write it on a separate piece of paper. So maybe if you've got 40 paragraphs, now you got 40 sentences over here. describing each paragraph. Now, after you've read the patter, and you've poured your water or whatever you're going to do with it, then you got to compound it. Now, you compound it by setting your patter down, and you grab that sheet of the 40, in this case, suggestions, and now you read them, each one of these suggestions, crossing off every third one, so that it's being reduced all the time that you read it until you're down to none. So now you've compounded the patter beautifully. So look at all the good work we've done. We've done a great motivational pre-talk. We've done an induction to put them in somnambulism. We used a direct drive technique. We've read the patter. We've compounded the patter. And if you're lucky enough, you've made it patter really strong with hypnotoys. I mean, we are moving down the pike here. Now we're getting closer to the end of a direct drive session. So now what you're going to do is your summation. Now your summation should be delivered as if you were, and this again is where your acting class will pay major dividends, because now you turn into Clarence Darrow, that powerful attorney of years gone by. And now you become like an attorney summing up your case. And let's say it's, we'll go back to smoking. You say to a person, you know, you've done really well, and I'm very proud of you, but I have to be honest with you, as I am with all of my clients. You didn't come here to stop smoking. You're aware of that, aren't you? Well, or not. I'll say, let me again. Now, with the weight loss, that's built into it, but now I'm into the smoking, and that this was not built into the smoking pattern. I'll say the reason you came here was not to stop smoking. That's the reason your conscious mind gave you. But the real reason that you came here today is to finally take back control of a part of your life that's been out of control for too many years. Well, let me tell you this. Nobody has the right to control you. Nobody. That right was given to you by God for you only. Not your mother, not your father, not your boss. No one has the right to control you. Certainly not those ingrates who are selling poison up in North Carolina. Let me tell you something about those people. They don't smoke. I'll tell you something else about those people. They don't hire people that smoke. Why? It costs them so much money in insurance payments. Now, don't get me wrong. They know that they're going to kill you, and the death from cigarette smoking and lung cancer is horrible, but they want you to last as long as you can. But while you're hacking up blood sometime in the future because of their poisoning for all these years, they're going to be off the coast of Spain sucking Mai Tais on their yacht that you paid for.
They're still in hypnosis.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing the summation.
Another thing you've taken control of. You have taken control of your child, if they have a child, of your little baby's health. No more are you going to exhale poisonous smoke into your little daughter's lungs, that sweet, innocent thing who's trusting you with her very life, her very existence. No. You have born her, and you're going to give her the gift of health and love, and that child is going to be so blessed because of what you're doing here today. And no longer can you be taken out of control. You've taken back that control. No one, no place, not even, and sometimes I get a little vulgar. Not those BASTAR mega fratzes up there in North Carolina. They're not going to be allowed to do it. You're not going to do it. You've taken back control, and nobody can take it away from you. And you feel good. You feel excited about yourself. Go inside yourself and feel the pride. Go inside yourself, feel the excitement. Go inside yourself and feel the love for you, by you. Feel it. And know it's your new reality. Know that now you love yourself enough to give you and your little girl the gift of health and long life. And you ramble like this, and you can get really excited about it, and you can really get this thing going. And then you end it, and then you say, okay, you're done really, really good. Now it's time to emerge them. Say, okay, now in a moment I'm going to count from 1 up to 3. When I reach the count of 3 and not before, your eyes are going to open, you're going to become fully alert, totally refreshed, and when they open, they're going to open into a new world of healthy lungs, clean breath, a world of long life for you and your little daughter or your son or whoever. And you're going to open your eyes into a world of a non-smoker, and no one is ever going to take that away from you again. Are you excited? Yeah. By this time, you've wound them up pretty good. Here we go, 1. Now already feel with every breath you exhale those old poisons and tars being exhaled by every breath, being tossed out of your body. 2, you feel great, you feel powerful, you feel in control as already you feel your body healing from the inside out. You're back in control and nobody can take it away from you. On the next count, your eyes are going to open. They're going to open into a wonderful new and exciting world of a non-smoker. You're going to feel great. You ready? All right, here we go. 3. Now open those eyes. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Notice how good you feel, how strong you feel. And they do. And they think it's over. I learned this word for living in the South for all these years. Tain't. Tain't over yet. You know what tain't means? It means ain't. Well, that means kind of like not over yet. Well, he's doing the best he can with his French. He's great. But they think it's over. But it tain't. Because now comes a very exciting part of the session. This is what we call the icing on the cake, or the technical term is the post-hypnotic interview. And the post-hypnotic interview simply, for Don, well, you're sitting in the seat. The post-hypnotic interview simply goes like this. 3, eyes open, fully alert, take a deep breath, then you get in their face and you go, look at me right here. Now you've locked them right on you again, and now you see, when somebody's emerged from deep hypnosis, they're not emerged. They're still in a hyper state of suggestibility, anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds, depending on how they get back up to speed. So now we still have a very hyper-suggestible person on our hands. Look at me right here, and now you know you're a non-smoker. You know that there's no way in the world you could ever smoke a cigarette. You look back as your smoking days as part of your history, and now you've gotten rid of it, you've kicked it out, you've destroyed it, you've blown it up. You've taken back control of your life. No one can take it away from you. No one, and certainly not those people selling that poison to you and your children. No, you're in charge. You feel good. You're going to be a non-smoker every day of your life from this moment on, healthier, stronger, and more powerful every day, and you feel great. You feel excited. You feel as a non-smoker would feel, powerful. You are proud. You feel fabulous, and you're going to be a non-smoker forever. True or false? Hallelujah! Yeah, there you go.
Didn't say sleep.
I had a vision. Boy, did he get me good, I'll tell you right now. Look at him, he looks so quiet and innocent. Whew. Now they think they're done. There's one more thing they have to do. And it's extremely important. Anybody want to guess what it is?
Throw that pack of cigarettes away.
Well, no, not. You know what I do at this point is, remember that basket full of cigarettes I told you about? It's more subtle than saying, do you want to throw your cigarettes away? I'll look at them, and I'll look at the basket, and I'll come back and smile at them. If that doesn't work, I'll do it again. And pretty soon they go, I think I'll throw my cigarettes in that basket. But still, there's one more thing they have to do before the session is successful.
They have to pay you.
That's it! They have to pay you. What did you say?
We get our money up front.
Oh, you get your money up front. Well, women can get away with that. Any questions about how you do this? You see how powerful if we're talking about a session that's a direct suggestion, and all direct suggestion success is based on compounding. Look at the compounding we have accomplished here. I mean, more than anybody else could possibly imagine. We do the eyes open waking hypnotic technique during the pre-talk. dunk. And you can do that with anyone. I mean, if you want to do a live pre-talk, just learn to lock on their eyes. That's the hardest thing for you to learn how to do, because you become uncomfortable. If you have any insecurities and things on that order, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. What are you laughing at? She goes, I can do that, no problem. So you do that. You put them in a trance, and you start firing in the suggestions before you even do the formalized induction. Then you do your induction. Of course, suggestions are built into any good induction, or you can weed them in there that they're going to be successful. Then you go ahead and use this great direct drive technique. And you can add to that using tape and getting out of the room, which works so well that it's fabulous. So now you have compounded with the direct drive technique, you've compounded it in a pre-talk. They know they're going to be a success even before the induction. Now you read them the pattern. How do you read them the pattern? Claudia? Yeah, remember Olivia Newton-John, that song she used to sing? I want to be emotional. No?
Let's get physical.
Oh, physical. I'm shocked. Olivia would never say that. She's an idol of mine. Well, you get the idea. You want to get emotional, okay? And then you use your summation at the end of your direct drive technique, which you've compounded tremendously. And your direct drive, after you read the pattern, you compound the pattern. Remember taking each sentence out of it? Now you're compounding again. Then you do your summation, you're compounding it in. Then you do your emerging, you're compounding on your emerging. Then you're doing the post-hypnotic interview, you're compounding on the post-hypnotic interview. The only thing you don't want to do for your own personal safety is offer him a cigarette when this is over. Because you could get hurt. Is that right, Don?
That's right.
Gerald, do you handle all the non-filters that are approached this way? You have to go back to like an ISE with the clear and deal with it?
Do I regress to an ISE, to initial event, to find out why a person started smoking? Under one occasion.
That one? I know I'm in the floor,
Only if I can't do two things at the same time. Hold that question here.
Men can't do that,
Well, yeah, probably, because I can't. I got to count to 4. Is there one here?
She's over there.
She's on the floor. So that means now I got to count to 3.
You can't count above what?
5 is my limit. Okay, I think we got everybody. The question was, do I regress to the initial synthesizing event for a smoker? The general answer is no, not whatsoever. There's no reason to, because the reason a person smokes as an adult is substantially different than the reason they smoked when they began. Let me explain to you why people start smoking. Anybody know why people start smoking?
Social acceptance.
Louder.
Social acceptance.
Insecurity.
Peer pressure.
Imagine. Social acceptance.
Emulating your peers.
Stress?
What?
Stress?
Twist? Stress.
You like sugar?
They like sugar. I'm not going to beat this to death, but when people were very young, they had the most important need we have as humans is what? Huh? Well, it's funny, if you guys know it, maybe you saw some of my tapes, but if you didn't, women generally say love and men will say sex. Right, Don?
Usually.
Yeah. And neither one of those are really our most primary need. They may come in second or third based on whoever you are. But the primal need is all of us must have a minimum need for a certain level of security, feelings of security. If we don't, we become pretty dysfunctional very quickly. When we grow inside of our mother womb, we are the most secure being in the world. We built our own house. It's very neat. All of our needs are instantly taken care of. It's great. Then comes the the labor pains. All of a sudden your house gets squished and pushed around and crushed, and then all of a sudden the mother's water breaks. Now for the first time you feel something you never felt before called gravity, which is 14 point something square pounds per cubic inch pushing down on your little body. Now you're being shoved down to this tube. You're all crushed, and then all of a sudden your head hits something. Ouch! Called the pubic bone. There's a weirdo. Now your head has to be re-shrunk like a torpedo a lot of times to get past that little thing. Now you come squirting out, and what do you feel? The first thing you feel is ice cold. You've never been in that temperature before, even if it's 80. And the next thing you're doing is hearing all sorts of weird noises. You don't know what they are. Instruments clanging, and then the doctor, hopefully they've learned better by now, but in the old days they used to pick you up upside down, smack you on the ass to get you breathing, and there comes the fear of heights and all that other stuff built right in from birth. So you've turned from the most secure individual to the most insecure individual on the planet Earth in a couple of hours. Mom takes you home. And hopefully, well, here you split. You go to smoking or weight loss. But let's just say you grow up in a secure household. And nothing is really bad and everything's fine. But then you reach this magic age. For my kids, it was about 13. I had to do some heavy hypnosis. They started to rebel, but we nipped it in the bud. But let's just say we didn't nip it in the bud. And all of a sudden, what would happen to normal kids at that age? All of a sudden, their parents get very stupid, don't they? And they don't want to listen to their parents. So then what happens? They want to be getting their security through their reaction with their friends in middle school or whatever it is. Now they've cut off that security stream. Now your subconscious mind, one of the main parts of it is it's your protective mind. It must protect you against danger, real or imagined. And low-level security is a severe danger. And so it says, I've got to give you the security. Where can I find it? And it's very interesting because we used to do field trips with our students. And we'd go out to the local middle school. Better tell the police. And we'd go out in my bus in those days. And we would watch the kids on breaks when they'd go out in the yard. And it was amazing. It was like the Old West where people would turn in a circle to fight off the Indians. The different groups would be in different circles. And the most interesting thing happened. When somebody lit a cigarette, who was it? It was always the cool guy or the cool gal, right, of the group. And anybody else who smoked would either physically or just turn their head to look at that person, and they'd all light their cigarettes. The non-smoker was out from their subconscious perception because all the smokers were talking to each other, and either their backs or their psychic backs were toward the individual, and they weren't getting the security. And so their subconscious mind says, look, smokers are secure. Look at the interaction they have. Look at the friendships they have. If you smoked, you'd be secure too. So the next time somebody offered you a cigarette, you took it, you lit it, and what did it taste like? Huh?
Terrible.
Terrible.
Well, terrible was not her first word, but we get the gist. And yeah, based on the first taste of a cigarette, would anybody smoke? No. But all of a sudden, they're patting you on the back. They're going, atta gals, hey, really cool, you're like us. And that security level goes up, and so you become a smoker because it gives you security. Now, that's a childish thing. When you get older, it mutates until, you know, once you get into your late 20s or 30s, you're really just a sugar addict at that point. And you have to deal with it then. So, to go back to do I regress? The answer is generally not, unless, and then I do regress. Sometimes with the element induction, because it's so powerful, as soon as you tell a person to close your eyes and relax them to the point they won't work, and then test them, you will see the purest sign of somnambulism you can ever see. And that is the eyeball under the eyelid will all of a start to rhythmically go back and forth, left and right. And it's effortless. Try to do that consciously. Close your eyes and try to move your eyeball left and right, eyeballs, and see how after a while you can sense the strain and how it starts to hurt a little bit. It's not an easy thing to do consciously. But when the person is that, now that's a sign of pure somnambulism. It's perfect. But what happens? If you continue the induction, it has a tendency to raise the people out of somnambulism. And it's a struggle to get them back. If you all of a sudden start with the stop smoking suggestions, They don't know they're in somnambulism. All they're aware of is you had them close their eyes and test them. And if you start doing therapy, they're going to say you're nuts. You didn't hypnotize them, so it's all going to be rejected anyway. So and you can do what you do or whatever you choose to do. What I always do in that situation is I regress them right back to their first cigarette. And I let them hack on that for a little bit and turn green. Now, you can keep it going a lot longer than it did in real time, but if you choose to do that, you might have to clean up a mess. So you want to shut it off as soon as they realize they're there. And then I bring them forward and say, now you know what it's like to be a smoker, and boom, just pick up your session from that point. And I've never had anybody argue with me that they weren't in hypnosis when we did that, you say. But no, I mean, to regress them back to why they started was not something you need to do anymore, because that's not the problem anymore.
What about the 30% that weren't successful with the drug suggestion?
What about the 30%? When we say that you're in the 70-75% success rate if you're really doing this well, what about the other 30%? Well, nobody's saying you can't go for it, but the odds are when kick came to punt, they really didn't want to stop. If you really get into them, you know, let's face it, if are you married?
Yeah.
Is your wife a smoker?
No.
Okay. Are you a smoker?
No.
Were you ever a smoker?
No.
Damn, this is a bad thing to do. All right, we're changing your wife. She's your wife. Judy's your wife. You went to Bob, and Bob did his witchcraft because you were a smoker, and you became a non-smoker. Now you also became one of those soapbox non-smokers. And now Judy is catching all sorts of flack from you because you want her to stop smoking. Not what she wants, it's what you want. So now Judy is forced to smoke out on the porch. Well, that becomes a little too much for you, so now she's got to smoke down by the sidewalk. But she's still going to smoke. Or she's making you pull over in every rest area on the way down the highway to catch a butt, as my granddaughter says. People catch a butt. So finally, you say to her, you got to go see Bob. By gosh, he's going to get you off of cigarettes. And to get you off of her back, she says, okay. Or maybe you're a nasty guy and you start slapping her around to stop smoking. That's been known to happen. Do you do that? She'd knock you out, wouldn't she? Yeah. So now she comes to the office reluctantly. And we discover whether she has the right mental attitude, and she fakes it because she is afraid of you and all this other stuff. And she goes into hypnosis and rejects everything. And it doesn't work. This happens quite frequently. Some variation of this theme is somebody trying to stop because somebody else wants them to. That's another thing you bring up. For smoking, never accept a smoking appointment from anybody other than the person that wants to stop smoking. You will frequently have, I'm calling to make an appointment for my husband to stop smoking. Does he know about it? I'm sorry, ma'am, we do not accept these type of appointments. The individual who wants to stop smoking must make the appointment themselves. If you start taking appointments from somebody else,
They got a lot of no-shows.
you're going to have a lot of no-shows, exactly.
Well, the reason I ask is for those 30% that weren't successful the first time, do they come back and say, hey, it didn't work, and then they want to do something else?
Oh, a lot of people will call up and say it didn't work, that fall into that 30%. They just paid you how much to stop smoking?
85.
85?
I'm a novice.
Then you should be more expensive. They just paid you $100 to stop smoking, and now it didn't work. So they call you up, and what do they want?
Their money back.
Money back.
Well, either that or they want a free session, don't they? They want their money back or a free session. Now, you did your job the best you could, didn't you? Absolutely. If you went to your doctor's office with a symptom of a problem, and he prescribed a medicine and it didn't take, do you go back to his office and say, I want my money back or I want a free visit? Hardly. He would give you what? The boot. But for some reason, and it's our fault. it's really our fault as a profession. Because of these hypnotists who are out there giving money-back guarantees, which is ludicrous, by the way. Can you imagine? I mean, look at MDs, surgeons, you know, these type of folks. Do they give a guarantee? Do you know what you have to sign when you go in for surgery? Yeah. Do you know what you have to sign? You have to sign this little release that says, it starts off, this is to advise you that the practice of medicine is not an exact science, and then in whatever words it basically says, we could kill you, and if we do, don't hold it against us. And you sign it and say, okay. Now here comes the hypnotist. The doctor's working with something he can touch, smell, taste, feel, manipulate, cut, excise, the whole 9 yards. Here comes the hypnotist who is working with something intrinsically invisible, the mind. We don't really know where it is. We think it's up here in the head, but it might be down in the big toe, my favorite place. And we don't know how it really works. And there we are going, I guarantee 100% success. Can you imagine how stupid that makes us look as a profession? That's why these people are calling that up. And they'll say, money back guarantee if it doesn't work. Some motel hopper did it in your city someplace and it's ingrained in their mind. Or they're going to say, I want a free session. If you go back to the doctor, is he going to give you a free session? No, he's going to charge you. He's doing the best he can. He deserves to be paid for that, even if it didn't work the first time. So we brought this on ourselves, this mentality. I charged them more for the second session in smoking because I figured they lied to me. They didn't tell me the truth. If they told me the truth, they'd be a non-smoker. So instead of $150 a session, they're going to go $175. If they don't like it, go to some other hypnotist. They'll be glad to lay him back in a recliner, pat him on the head and tell them they're going to relax, tell them they're going to stop smoking, have them open their eyes, and when it doesn't work, when you're ready, you'll come back here. Case closed. So, you know, that's all you can do. Don't start giving money-back guarantees. Don't start giving people free sessions. And don't give them their money back if you did your job. You earned that money. All $85. $85? North Carolina. Whereabouts in North Carolina? Charlotte, North. There's money in Charlotte, North. That's a rich little town.
We do okay.
We do okay. What kind of car are you driving? A Mustang. Boy, we're going to have a talk. Any questions on how to do this? You feel good about it? You feel good about it?
Yes.
You going to go get them?
Yes.
Are you going to be excited about how you do direct suggestions?
How important would it be to take them into the future to let them actually see themselves as a non-smoker or whatever you're doing?
That's a technique a lot of people use. She said, how important is it to take a person into the future and see how their life is different as a non-smoker? Now, I'll answer your question. If you've done your session correctly, it's not that important. Now, let me add a caveat to that. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. I think it re-verifies everything. I think it makes them feel better, but probably not necessary. If you have the time, I'd say go for it. Can't hurt. And if you don't have the time, cut them off after you've done your work and get the next one in. Absolutely. It's a fine technique, and a lot of people like to do that. Any other questions? Sir?
Related to the law of compounding suggestions, and yet connected to people becoming more and more open to suggestion throughout. What I'm getting towards is the post-hypnotic suggestions related to, I'm not thinking about smoking, say stress, the triggers, you know, with the fingers, squeezing the fingers. If that's given towards the end of the session, does that mean if it was only given once or twice towards the end of the session, that's just as weak as if you would have given it
in the beginning?
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to give, like he's saying, if you're going to give some signal, I don't care what it is, whenever you press your fingers together, the desire will dissolve and disappear or something on that order. Will that be more powerful at the end of the session or in the beginning of the session? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
Yeah, and the answer is no, it won't be more powerful because that suggestion would have to be compounded.
Just because at the end of 45 minutes, a person...
It's a different suggestion. See, it's not the same suggestion. You're giving them a whole different thing. Whenever you do this, boom. Now, if you're going to use that type of a technique, you've got to compound that wherever it is that you're giving it to them. Bring it on, take it away. Bring it on, take it away. I'll count to 3. You're going to have a tremendous desire for a cigarette. Then you'll press your thumb and forefinger together. Instantly, it dissolves and disappears, and you feel wonderful. Then, if you're going to go that technique, that's exactly this. It's nothing more but a varied direct drive technique. So how many times do you have to do it?
Numerous.
15. 15 if you really want to feel good about the strength of it, you see.
Can you have more than one suggestion that you're direct driving in a sense?
Can you, and the question is, can you have more than one suggestion in a direct drive technique? And the answer is, in the pure direct drive technique, no. Now, there are impure variations of this. And you don't want to deal with impurities. Now, wait a minute, that didn't come out right. Yes, you can. You can go here. You are now a non-smoker. You'll be a non-smoker the rest of your life. Every day that goes by, your body's going to become healthier and stronger because you're a non-smoker. You're a non-smoker, you're going to be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. So you alternate 2 of them. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't go beyond 2 with the direct drive technique. It won't be quite as powerful as 1, and why would you want to do 2? Why wouldn't you not go completely for the throat with what they're in there for? You're a non-smoker and you'll be a non-smoker for the rest of your life. From this moment on, your weight comes off easy and effortlessly until you're at the perfect weight for your size and shape of your body, blah. I mean, focus on that. That's what they're paying for you. The goal is focus on what they're paying you to accomplish. And keep that as pure as you possibly can, and you'll find things work a lot better for you.
Now, am I understanding correctly that to compound a suggestion, you can use any suggestion, but as long as it comes after the initial suggestion, all other suggestions will compound it, even if it's not the direct drive you were just talking about?
Yes. I mean, compounding is the more suggestions you give a person, it always goes back and reinforces the first one, then the second one. So yeah, you can bounce around with suggestions, but it's a weaker way to do things. It's really kind of shotgun kind of an effect, and you know, I'd kind of like to stay away from that if I were you.
You say each individual's, when you make a suggestion, it's one specific subject, and you compound that subject over and over again. That's what you're referring to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I got from him that maybe he was saying, or I don't know what he was saying, but I think if you give him another suggestion on a different subject, it doesn't compound the first subject. You know, I mean, you can give several suggestions during a session, but you want to...
I think the best I have to say is that might be marginally debatable.
Yeah, okay.
You know, for example, you really don't want to do more than one subject in a hypnosis session. That's what you don't want to do. A lot of people will come in and they want to stop smoking and lose weight in the same session. Right. Don't ever, ever let them talk into that. You'll come a cropper on both of them. No, and it's, of course, bad business, if nothing else. If they're coming in for a problem, I highly suggest you deal with that one problem. And unless they're compatible. For example, if you're dealing with a compatible thing like memory and concentration or study habits and test anxiety, very compatible, not a problem. As a matter of fact, one compound will enhance the other compound in that scenario. Yeah, so that's absolutely fine. When you're dealing with 2 compatible, very compatible things, memory and concentration, no problem. You can use many different approaches and many different suggestions, but certainly not ones that really need to focus of energy on that one particular problem, smoking, weight loss. Yeah.
What I was referring to is on your example there on the board, the first suggestion is from this moment on, every breath you exhale helps and guides you to go deeper, relaxed, or whatever word you used. The second suggestion was you are now a non-smoker, you will remain a non-smoker the rest of your life. You said that reinforces the first one, even though it's a different suggestion. Mm-hmm. So now from this point on, since those were the first 2 suggestions you gave, the smoking pattern have a bunch of additional suggestions in them that are worded differently. Are they continually compounding the first 2 suggestions?
The law of compounding says, and it's a general law, that as you give a suggestion, the next suggestion will always compound the first one. The third one will compound, make the first one and the second one stronger, blah, blah. It can be any suggestions. You can move away from smoking, and they have to be compounded. But if you're going to deal with non-aligned suggestions, for example, moving away from the core subject, they're not going to compound as strongly. They're going to be a lot weaker, you see, because you're going into totally different areas. So you need to be careful about that. Try to keep it pure. Don't try to knock off too much in one session. Try to keep it as focused as you can. When you become scattered, that's when you'll lose also. It's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, there's a concept called chaining states, and if you change too much, you'll be linking the states.
No, you've got to stay focused on what you're working on. That's where your success is, and that's what you want to do anyway. Why in the world would you want to do smoking and weight loss in one session for $100? You've just given away $50, if nothing else, haven't you? That's a 2-session situation.
What kind of timelines would you recommend when people come to you and say, well, I have 3 things that I want to work on, and this is the first one that I want to work on, and then we'll get to the others. At what point?
After you corrected one, do the next one. I don't care if you're doing an hour later. I mean, he said what the timeline is if people want to work on several problems. If you want to schedule morning and afternoon, that's fine. If you can knock the first one off in the morning and do the second one in the afternoon, that's fine. Remember, if we take into the concept of what hypnosis is, we're dealing with an organic computer. And it acts like a computer. Does the computer care how many different documents you hit the delete button on? No. Right, Tim?
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people will say, I like to do smoking in 3 sessions or 4 sessions or 5 sessions. Well, if that's what you like to do, do it. But I know that if I work my computer deprogramming the way I do it, I don't need but 1 session to accomplish this particular thing.
You don't need to give that client a week, or
Why?
The subconscious mind can handle the next one.
You own a computer?
Yeah, but I don't get on it much. Yeah, the computer analogy gets lost with me. So.
All right. Well, she'll understand what I'm talking about then. She'll explain it to you.
Well, then I have another question I can ask it. When people do groups, because we're still deciding whether to do groups. So, okay, you do the smoking group. Okay, you do a group. Then sometimes after that, people will, do the smoking group. Then right after that, they'll do a weight loss group. So that's not effective, or is that effective?
There is no yes or no to this. You see, the answer to it, if the hypnotist knew what he was doing and did the smoking session correctly, and the person became a non-smoker, and there's a lot of gimmies, okay, then the person could move into the weight loss right away. But if you're going from smoking to weight loss, you're going from a direct suggestion technique, which is smoking, to much more often weight loss is not a direct suggestion technique. So the hypnotist that only knows the motel hopper who jumps in and does smoking can have a relatively good success rate if they do a good program, because it responds wonderfully to direct suggestion. He should glean his audience and make sure that people want to stop, but assuming that they can have a pretty good success rate if they know what they're doing. But a lot of them are advertising smoking, and now what the hell, we'll throw in weight. And so they add some weight suggestions. Well, this weight may be caused by a lot of problems that are not going to be addressed by a direct suggestion technique. So in many cases, if you attempt to do this, you'll be trying to marry a direct suggestion with a regression technique. Now, this could really work against everything. Because let's say you did a good job on the smoking and came a cropper on the weight, it's liable to destroy the smoking, thinking that didn't work either. So I always use, don't mix and match direct suggestion and regression work and expect to have success. You won't. Now, if you were doing individually you're talking groups, and that's what I'm referring to. If you're doing individual sessions, that's a whole nother work. So you could do the smoking in the morning and do the weight in the afternoon. That's fine. Just different skills in, but you wouldn't want to do that in groups. No.
You were talking about, though, that you were going to keep the smoker from gaining weight, or
that'll be in your pattern?
Yeah.
Just some, I mean, you don't have to really go heavy and
No.
medically.
No. And if it doesn't work, she says in the smoking thing, we also addressed in the pre-talk, do you mind if I take away the regular injections for sweetness so your body can attain a proper weight? Now, if the weight is not caused by another problem, that works great. If it is caused by another problem, the worst case scenario is I got to work on my weight separately. That, you know, it didn't handle. So you bring them in.
What else would you use for direct suggestion? What would you use direct suggestion for?
All right. We're going to end the tape here in a second, and if anybody wants to hang around and answer other questions, we're here for you. But we're running out of tape, so let's shut this part of it down. And thank you for being here, by the way. A lot of you guys came a long distance. Did you enjoy it? Yes. Did you learn anything? Thank you.